XLM continues to make a lot of noise in this space at a time where a lot of people are not actually focused on the projects that continue to build, continue to expand, and also continue to grow. But I do think that this is probably one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of retail investors are making. Not only this cycle, though, it's been cycle over cycle in the past as well, because even if you go back to 2020, there was a lot of great projects making a lot of big moves, but a lot of people completely avoided them because of the price action. And today, well, it's no different. But we're going to be talking about this because there's a lot to actually address when it comes to Stellar, especially a lot of the big moves happening recently, but also the big moves happening behind the scenes on the network itself. So welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So first and foremost, let's actually take a quick look at this post here, analyzing the active addresses in the last 30 days on Stellar. Active addresses on Stellar.org just went orbital, up 6.5x in a matter of days. Something's cooking in the cosmos. And yeah, we actually went from roughly 200,000 active addresses to over 1.4 million in the last few days. We're talking about from like the 7th, the 8th of April to about like the 10th of April. This is wild to see. But on top of this, right, it's not just active addresses. Over here, we do see that on March 20th, we go back a little bit, right, Stellar actually hit a new all-time high in terms of the max TPS per block, which was at almost 250 transactions per second. And outside of that, we also know that they recently added a ton of new on and off ramps with, a few big players. And we have here the economy has gone global and digital with Stellar's network of 300,000 crypto on and off ramps. You can send payments globally that settle instantly. And there's a lot of great on and off ramps that actually have Stellar tapped in. You could look at, for an example, like MoneyGram is technically an on and off ramp service. But you also look at like Alchemy Pay, for an example, that has, massive amounts of numbers behind them as well. So Stellar has been making a lot of big moves as of recent. But also if we look at the network itself, so this is something that I have always, paid attention to, because this is not just showing us like the hype around XLM. This is actually showing us the stats happening behind the network itself. Meaning you can see transactions per second, you could see the total accounts, things like that. So first and foremost, total accounts, 9.4 million. New assets issued in the last 24 hours, by the way. This is 24-hour ledger statistics. So total accounts, 9.4 million. New assets issued, 6. Processed operations, over 8.4 million. Payments, over almost 8 million. DEX trades, almost 530,000. And DEX volume, almost 9 million XLM. But if you actually look at the accounts here, go back just 1 year, roughly 2 million to 9.4 million from, roughly April to April. Like, this is kind of crazy to look at the all-time chart. And we just go back to like the beginning of 2024, 8 million exact. We're now over 9.4 million. So 1.4 million accounts added in a single year. We're not even just going back to like, if we go back to like 2020, it's kind of crazy because the account growth here on XLM is just up only. This is showing us that there's a lot of adoption happening around Stellar. And also new assets and trust lines. So newly created assets have been really kind of on a decline since going back to 2021. But total established trust lines and total funded trust lines have been on a nice upward path, which we love to see. Again, this is adoption happening behind the network. And I do think that in terms of like the issued the newly created assets, I think that that's going to change significantly with DeFi. And if we look at the DeFi side, we mainly look at, Sorabon. So, this is something that I've been tracking because this is the DeFi side of Stellar. And so far, in terms of the smart contracts deployed, almost 6,000. Smart contracts themselves is about 4,600. And then SAC contracts is about like almost 1,400. But we could actually see, the upward path from the beginning of, 2025. This was the beginning of 2025 back here. you could see how massive these step functions are to the upside of, contract creations. These are just the invocations, but if we actually look at the charged contract fees as well, this is severe growth. It's kind of crazy to look at the amount of fees, and this is all paid out in XLM, by the way. Like, you can see the non-refundable fees, the refundable fees, and then also the rent fees. This is all XLM usage. And this is the contracts created. So up here, this is just the invocations, but these are the contracts created. And we can see that 2025 has been very, very good in terms of contracts on Stellar. Now, I do think that a large portion of this is DeFi. And the reason why I say that is because of some of the moves being made right now around Stellar. A lot of them are major DeFi, innovations. But also a lot of marketing is happening around Stellar's DeFi ecosystem as well. For an example, OneClickFi recently put out a thread on X, and we have why Stellar DeFi. Stellar.org is known to be the solution to these three key areas: interoperability, scalability, low cost, fast transactions. Let's take a look at these areas in the first section of the one-click Stellar ecosystem playbook. Number one is interoperability. The network seamlessly connects with traditional financial systems and other blockchains, making it a hub for cross-chain DeFi dapps. Stellar is ahead of the curve and anticipated institutional involvement from its inception. They have focused on allowing for seamless integration with existing banking systems. This interoperability facilitates cross-border payments and asset transfers between different financial systems. They currently have a partnership with MoneyGram, which has rails between USDC and fiat by providing a smooth, seamless on and off ramp. Now, again, we could take a look back at this one where there's over 300,000 and say, yeah, I think that Stellar has the on and off ramp interoperability side of things completely dialed in. But also scalability. The more a project can scale, the more traffic it can handle, and thus the more transactions it can handle and more users it can obtain. Stellar is designed to handle a high volume of transactions efficiently, which makes it perfect for transfers such as cross-border payments and remittances. The following are the main contributing factors as to why they are solving the scaling problem. Processes transactions in 2 to 5 seconds, capable of processing thousands of operations per second. Transactions cost are, fractions of a penny per transaction as well. And then, of course, the architecture. Stellar uses the Stellar Consensus Protocol, which allows for quick transaction confirmations without the need for energy-intensive mining. This mechanism supports a high volume of transactions while maintaining network security and reliability. Also, Stellar implements state archival, which helps manage data storage efficiently by archiving inactive accounts and storing them off-chain. This approach maintains the network's overall health and efficiency. This is a brief overview, and there's a lot more detail and an entire guide, and they do outline that. But they also outline financial inclusion, which you already know that Stellar has always been banking the unbanked for a very long time. Cross-border payments and remittances have always been a big focus. And then you have the scalability and interoperability, which, we've kind of gone over. But at the end of the day, right, like when we think about what's going on here, these networks are completely built out for DeFi use cases. We talk about this a lot with XRP. We talk about it with Hedera. We talk about it with Algorand. I mean, there's some great networks in the space, and the institutional side of things are starting to really kind of pick up around institutional DeFi initiatives. And Stellar, working with big players already like Wisdom Tree and Franklin Templeton, really put a big spotlight on Stellar in the institutional side of things, which again, I think is only going to grow more and more as we start to see more tokenized things of value moving on chain. But also Stellar is now putting a big spotlight on a lot of great projects building out on Stellar around the DeFi side of things. Like, for example, Blend. This is actually the Blend Emeru case study. And, this is one of those projects that you should be focused on because we're starting to see a lot more DeFi tools on Stellar. And Blend is just a DeFi protocol primitive, which is built on Stellar. But this provides everything around lending pools, and it allows, users to actually integrate them into their applications for a variety of use cases, which if we think about, more dapps launching on Stellar around DeFi, then this is actually something that we want to see implemented on the network. So this is an incredible project. And I think that this is going to be a big accelerator of DeFi use cases launching on Stellar. I mean, so far there's so many smart contracts. There's been a lot of growth around Sora bonds, so I do expect the DeFi world on Stellar to really start to open up. But on top of that, we also know from Danielle Dixon's X account, she posted, the power of blockchain technology is on full display with Pelago Labs' core supply chain financing platform on the Stellar Org network. Again, like I said, the adoption and the growth happening around Stellar right now needs to be focused on. This is a very, very big deal because this is a complete supply chain financing platform and it's living on Stellar. And here we have, just a few breakdowns because I don't want to go all the way in depth on this because there is a lot of information to kind of go over. But we have Pelago Labs unveiled its integration with the Stellar blockchain to support the development of its crypto-enabled supply chain financing platform. The solution tokenizes and fractionalizes the account receivables and accredited buyers, creating smaller and supplier-specific representations. Danielle Dixon, the CEO of Stellar, said Pelago's supply chain financing platform gave small and medium-sized enterprises access to credit and liquidity on-chain. And yeah, listen, I talk about XDC a lot on this channel as well. We know how big the gap is around SMEs, and this goes for anything. But the supply chain side of things is a very big problem for SMEs. So the fact that Stellar is actually now focused on this with Pelago, I think that this is a very, very exciting development. And we also have a quote from Danielle Dixon here. The power of blockchain technology to transform the future of finance was on full display with Pelago's crypto-enabled supply chain financing platform, which also, by the way, if we think about what's going on here, yeah, this is just another real-world use case added to the Stellar network. And how many is that now? I mean, I lost count. This is why Stellar is becoming such a big name in, the legit side of crypto projects, because again, everyone still is kind of focused on the hype and speculation. They're looking at something to pump their bags. When the market actually stabilizes and we start to usher into the utility age of crypto, projects like XLM are going to, erupt in value because of all of these great use cases that are building out on the network. And we have here a quote from Polyflow. This innovative solution demonstrates the practical utility of the Stellar network and the USDC in facilitating real-world working capital lending to enable SMEs to access decentralized financial solutions that eliminate liquidity constraints and streamline their access to working capital. Yeah, I mean, the SME side of things, it's a big problem. I've always put a focus on it. There's trillions of dollars out there that could be immediately accessed with SMEs, because again, they need funding, but big banks continue to turn them away. So I think that this is a great initiative, and what better platform to launch this on than Stellar. So love to see that. Now, also, I want to put a spotlight real quick on this post as well from Stellar. Now, again, this is a very substantial article. The main thing here that we are looking at is Stellar becoming a network in which we could see government spending tracked on the network. Now, I've talked about it many times over. I think that the best network out there for this is Hedera. I'm sorry to say it, but yes, Hedera has been having tracking and tracing built into the network since inception. But do I think that Stellar is also a good player for this? Yes, I 100% believe so. Stellar themselves actually said that a recently leaked memo indicated that the US government is exploring issuing US funding for humanitarian efforts on a blockchain. With its customizable deployment options, near instant bulk payments, and full auditability, Stellar presents the most viable blockchain solution. Not to mention the fact that Stellar has also been around, the aid side of things for a very long time. In fact, they actually built out the Stellar Disbursement Platform, which is an open source, free to use product built by the SDF, the Stellar Development Foundation, which is already, being utilized around real world scenarios. So, I think that this definitely is something to focus on, and not to mention the fact that they're already working with some big names like the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and also the United Nations International Computing Center, which are also utilizing Stellar for payments. So, again, the name's already tied back to Stellar. The connections with Stellar definitely makes them a top priority project, or network, I should say, to tap into for like government spending tracking. But we have to wait and see what happens here. But at the end of the day, the thing that I really want to address here around Stellar is, even though some of the price action around this space has been pretty rough to see, you got to focus on these networks like Stellar that continue to see a lot of growth And I'm not just talking about, big moves being made and expansions happening around like the DeFi side or, integrations with some big players. I'm also talking about the network itself. The network is not slowing down. The network is not seeing like people, running away from it. It's actually starting to see a lot of major pickup here, which I think is going to lead to some significant price action once the market stabilizes as well. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely will like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.